Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast, brought to you by Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue from Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Money Over 50 Financial Advisors.
Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast with Ali and Dallas. So, I heard we're talking about death today.
Once again, Ali, I'm here to bring joy and happiness to the people. So, I did say this to you before we hit record. I feel like this is one that I've had a rant about this before, but I had a quick look back through and I couldn't find it anywhere, or maybe I just titled it something differently. But the theory I'm talking about here today, well, what I was going to actually title this podcast is, you will either die early or you won't.
Yep.
And so, not to make light of people dying early, but one of the phrases that we often hear or conversations we have with people is, you go, okay, you're 52 now, you plan to retire in 10 years' time at 62. You're, and this is all just maths, where we go, okay, you are above average in terms of education, socioeconomic status, health, all the rest of it. The likelihood is that one of you will live for 30 years in retirement.
And the usual response is, I'm not going to live for that long.
I'll be lucky to make 80.
Yeah.
Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people say that. Their immediate response is, when you just go, the numbers suggest that one of you will live for 30 years in retirement. It is exactly that noise. You've heard it a million times by now. I'll be lucky to make 80.
Then you ask him, your parents still alive? Oh yeah, how old are they? They're in their 90s. So obviously it can happen.
It can happen. And that's exactly my thing, is like my theory with this podcast is, and this should be a short and sharp one, is that like there are some people that have their life expectancy is lower than average. We've had this before, where new clients coming in, they've got pre-existing health conditions. They've got, a long history of, all the rest of it. You go, they may well die earlier than life expectancy suggests, and that is something that you could take into account. But what I'm talking about here is for the average punter who is, reasonably fit and healthy for their age, and they're coming in, and for some reason everyone thinks that they're not gonna make it to that thing. And I guess my response to that is that, and this is the name of this podcast, you either will or you won't.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, if you do die early, well, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? In terms of what we're looking at here with retirement planning and your outcomes and how much income can you safely draw, and how do you make sure that you've got that growing so it can provide a rising income stream. All the things that we're talking about, if you are going to die early, they don't matter.
Yeah.
So if you're going to retire at 62 and you're going to die at 72, you'd probably be fine. Like, you don't actually need to do anything. You just drain your retirement savings in the first 10 years of your retirement, and it's actually pretty hard to run out of money in the first 10 years.
Yeah.
For the average person listening to this. But I guess my point is, if that is the case, then there's nothing we need to do. If you know for sure that you're only going to last 10 years, then don't do any planning. Don't do any saving. Like, it would actually be illogical to save, to do any of those things, because you're going to be fine.
Exactly right. I guess it's a hard thing though, because it's one of those issues. If you did know that, then of course, let's not worry about saving for 30 years. Let's enjoy those last years. But it's usually the case is that we just don't know when that is. And
no, that's right. And so that's I guess the flip side of that is, and when we have this conversation, people everyone go, I won't last that long. Yeah, well, why do you think it's? I don't know. I just feel like that's okay. Well, let's assume that if you do die, if you die early, then we can't know that in advance. We can't do the planning around that. We can't say, just retire now and drain your retirement savings by 70 as much as possible. We have to plan. We basically have to plan for the best case or worst case.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to think, is it the worst case that I live longer?
Yeah.
The worst case is you live longer and you run out of money way too early.
Yes.
So in a sense, best case and worst case.
Well, that's exactly right. I would say that is the best case to me is that you run out of money on the day you die.
Yep.
That makes sense. Whether you live to 72 or 92, if you could have it, so for the average person in Australia who's not really concerned about leaving a legacy or money to their kids, they'll often say, like, I want to run out of money in the day I die. And if we could do that, if we knew when you were going to die and we knew what the sequence of returns was going to be between now and then, and we could make that happen, that would be the ideal.
Yeah.
But that's actually not feasible. Like, that's not realistic. You can't do that. Like, from a planning perspective, it's even if you knew when.
So you're telling me we don't have a magic ball?
We don't have a magic ball. We don't have that magic answer. So the next best, I would say, with best case is you spend your last dollar on the day you die. The next best scenario here is that you die before your money, you run out of time before your money runs out.
Yep.
So whether that's living to 72 and having money left over, or living to 92 and having a bit of money left over,
yep,
I would say that is the next best scenario.
Yeah.
And then the worst case scenario is you run out of money before you pass away.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, we live in Australia. You're not going to starve. You'll be fine. Most people probably got kids that they can, hang around and torture and
exactly.
they'll put up with them and all the rest of it. And there is actually some benefits under our current, safety net system of passing away or going into aged care with not much in assets. But it's not what I would probably plan for if it was me.
Yep.
And so I guess the way to think of it is the only real feasible strategy that we have is to not run out of money before you die.
Yeah.
And for the average punter, they probably aren't going to, especially if it's a couple, they're probably not going to both pass away in their 70s. One of them is likely to live, an extended period of time in retirement. Therefore, we have to allow for the longest lived one of that couple. Therefore, we have to allow for the fact that your money might need to last you for 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's sort of one of those things where it's just a logical sequence of events that we've been through this with clients a million times. And once you break it down like that for people, within the 5 minutes, they kind of go, oh, yeah, you're right. Well,
yeah, they very quickly come around and go, oh, yeah, it is better to plan for that, just in case.
Yeah. But it's an interesting one. So if you're listening to this and that's kind of where you're going, oh, well, I guess I got to plan for my retirement, but I'll be dead by 80 or I'll be dead by 75 or whatever that figure is.
Yeah.
You probably won't. And I guess the second part of it is you need to plan. You need to plan for the fact that the most realistic, feasible plan that you can have and probably should have in retirement is to make sure you don't run out of money before you die.
Yep.
Unless you know you're going to die early, you sort of have to plan for a 25, 30-year retirement. Yeah. Therefore, that's a simple mathematical equation. Again, let's make sure that you've got enough money to live the lifestyle you want throughout that time frame. So, that's my rant, and that's it.
That was a nice and easy one. So basically, we are going to die.
All I'm trying to do here is, if anyone books in for a meeting from the podcast and they go, I'll be dead by then. Okay, go back and listen to this podcast and then come back and talk to me after you've done that. We'll cut straight to the chase. That's
exactly right. I feel like we do have that conversation a lot with clients in meetings anyway. But let's just direct them to this. Here's a quick podcast of Dallas complaining and ranting about you're going to die. But it is true. We just need to plan to avoid that worst outcome. So
that's exactly right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. For more information and resources, visit the Money Over 50 website, mo50.com.au. We look forward to catching up again soon.